We want to welcome our friend Mayim to this program. We're so excited to have you, Mayim. How are you doing? Where are you calling in from?
Thank God I'm doing okay. I'm in my home where I've been for quite some time. I live in Studio City, so I live in the Valley. And yeah, I'm getting to know my house in ways that I never did before because I'm here all the time, pretty much.
Do you find that that things that you didn't notice about around the house now all of a sudden require enormous attention?
I'm one of those people who really thrives on being home. Even though I live my life as an extrovert, I am an introvert. I do love my alone time. I love quiet time. I love being home. I'm very domestic. So I love cooking and cleaning and organizing. But what I've realized is that when you're literally in your space all the time, um, yeah, there's an attention to detail that has come up for me, and also the realization that I shouldn't need a quarantine to have things the way that make me feel good in my home, and that's been an enormous shift for me. Not to get serious and intense right away, but I've had a lot of just things in places that they don't need to be, like taking up real estate in my mind and in my space. And it took a quarantine for me to say, like, Dayenu, like, like it's enough. And so that's actually been really interesting about being in my home. I've lived here many years, but I finally feel like there are now spaces where I know exactly what's going on in that space. It's not like everything is thrown there and nobody knows why. So that's been really nice.
That's we have something in common, which is that I don't eat cheesecake on Shavuot like normal people. Now, our reasons are a little bit different. I've been lactose intolerant for as long as I can remember. And I always felt really cut out of this whole Shavuot
Right.
cheesecake, ice cream thing.
Sure.
And then thank God I married a woman who is very creative and she made me a vegan cheesecake. I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about
Being
what
a vegan observant Jew.
being a vegan observant Jew on Shavuot.
So, being a vegan observant person brings up a lot of questions throughout the year. And, I've had people legitimately say, can you celebrate Shabbos without meat? And
Wow.
sometimes it's arrogance, like they're asking from like, oh, you think you're so hot? um, I do believe you can celebrate a beautiful Shabbos without Fleischig. And also Pesach is another biggie. But, our sages dealt with a lot of the issues surrounding what if you can't afford to have Zroa on your Seder plate? What if you can't afford that shank bone? So there actually are alternatives for that, which I partake in. You can use beets, you can use mushrooms as well. But for Shavuos, it is a very special, special holiday. And honestly, until the advent of more, soy-based products that can act like dairy, there were some lonely years for those of us who chose not to eat dairy. I'm allergic to dairy. I'm not lactose intolerant, meaning it's a different mechanism of what goes wrong in my body. But I actually am allergic to dairy. And most people actually do not process dairy completely. It's as high as 95% in African American populations, Asian populations, and among Ashkenazi Jews, it's up there. So you are not alone. And I like to remind people that if they feel really sick to the stomach after eating a ton of pizza, that means your body doesn't like dairy. It's not like that's how your body reacts to pizza, like everyone. So now that there are more, I call them trashy products because they're not health products, the things that you can use to mimic dairy. I do make a non, fun, trashy cheesecake that is cashew based. And I know everybody's like, nah, that's gross. I don't like eating
no,
gross.
that sounds
Right.
really good.
Well, it may sound good to you, but a lot of people hear that.
This.
Right. Well, this is the thing. People assume that if you're vegan, you get some magic super palate that allows you to eat crumbly, gross things. We don't like crumbly, gross things any more than people who are being forced to eat the things we're making for them. So I do have a few recipes, and also I'm happy to share them. If there's anywhere that they can be posted, I'll post them. So I do make a really nice cashew-based, it's like a turtle cheesecake. So it's got kind of like the caramelized nuts, and it's very, very nice. But I do make a classic East Coast, in case you're wondering, a classic East Coast vegan cheesecake based on my mother's cheesecake recipe that I've veganized. I use vegan sour cream and vegan cream cheese. Tofutti is the kosher brand that I happen to use. There are a lot of artisan, fancier alternative dairy products. They don't always bake as well as I have found tofu. This is not an ad for Tofutti, but I will say, if you're one of those people who's going to look at the ingredients and be like, there's soy in there, it's probably not for you. But once or twice a year, I make this cheesecake and it's delicious. I can also make it gluten-free, which makes my gluten-free friends happy. Mine is a lemon. I kind of got a little bit of a lemon vibe to it, and I make my own crust. No judgment on people who don't. I also make blintzes for Shavuos. So I make the batter vegan. And then I fill them usually with a combination of sour cream and berries. So yeah, we do that too.
That sounds really good. I haven't ever tried vegan blintzes.
God willing, next year I will bring you some, and we can have Shavuos together, not in a quarantine.
That sounds great. That sounds great, because that's, again, another one of those foods, those Jewish soul foods that I have felt cut out from, and I would love to connect with.
I'm happy to do so next year, God willing. Next year in Jerusalem, or not in a quarantine.
Or not in a quarantine. I really hope so. You've been really busy during quarantine. You had mentioned that you've been doing some projects, but also you have parenting. How are you balancing the dedication to parenting and to your craft and to your work?
Well, I think like all working parents, this quarantine has been a real challenge. My children are homeschooled. My ex-husband, I've been divorced, but we co-parent, we think, very nicely. My ex-husband is the homeschooling parent, meaning in any couple that homeschools, there's typically one parent that is dedicated to the homeschooling and kind of like the driving and the classes and the thing, and the other parent works. So us as a divorced couple, we are no different. What people are experiencing now in the quarantine, I like to say is not homeschooling. It's the closest thing to HE double hockey sticks that you can get, because working and schooling your children is not something that any homeschool parent tries to do at the same time. So this set of challenges, I just want to say, is very different than what kind of our normal schooling life looks like. But what my ex-husband and I have done during the quarantine is we've essentially left our custody schedule the same. I work in the week, meaning I take calls and Zoom meetings, and I write and I do all the things I have to do. And he handles their homeschooling. And then I get them for kind of extended weekends. So for example, they had class this morning and I positioned them in different places in the house. And then I said, I need my computer to Zoom so that I can talk to Rabbi Yonah. It's not easy for any parent. I will say that with children who are homeschooled, they are used to a lot of free time and a lot of time on their own. They do spend time playing video games and things like that, but their schooling is pretty discrete, and they know of schooling as something that happens for a select number of hours a day. And then we have the rest of the day to do chores or to go outside and play in the yard or whatever. We definitely miss out on park days and things that our homeschool community arranges so that kids get physical interaction. There is a prom, there's a homeschool prom that obviously we're not having this year. So a lot of that kind of connection is lost. But for me, I'm still a working parent, and some of us have the kind of jobs that do keep going. In fact, I have a little production company. We're called Sad Clown Productions. We are busier than before because without the distraction of me actually filming a TV show, we have plenty of time for me to take meetings and meet writers for other projects and develop things. So it's been really, really busy. And my kids are definitely playing more video games than I would like. And I think a lot of us are experiencing that. They haven't been eating as healthy as I normally like, but today lunch was good. So I take it one meal at a time.
I broke down, and my son really wanted to use his bar mitzvah money to buy something called a Switch.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So we never had a video game system in the house, and I wasn't going to buy a video game.
I didn't either. I blame my ex-husband. I hear you.
Well, along comes coronavirus, and I'm running around to Best Buys, seeing who has this magic Switch in stock. And of course, nobody has it in stock because all the other parents were smarter than I was and had already gotten to the Best Buys, and we're going to Target. And finally, we ended up driving like 40 minutes to some.
Did you have to buy it on the black market?
Almost. You know, it was like one of those, there's one left in the store and you're like racing down the aisle. You know, you're going to be the parent to grab that Switch. And I grabbed it and I brought it home and we opened it up, and it's not the normal color Switch. It's like this pastel color Switch.
Oh.
And I was mortified. I thought, oh my gosh, I've done all this work to, you know, and my wife, we're going to get the Switch and we got the wrong one.
I get it.
Thank God my son has taken to the pastel colored Switch.
You know, these are first world problems, and you know, it is a kiddush Hashem that you have raised a child that can get past the pastels in order to partake in the Switch. My son is colorblind. He cannot see pastels, so it would make zero difference to him. We could have switched. We could have
switched switches.
Oh.
Do you ever, you don't have to admit it. I will admit, I have played the Switch with them.
First of all, I couldn't even really tell you what the Switch is. You don't have to tell me now. I like for it to remain a little bit of a mystery. I tried once to play Fortnite. I made a YouTube video about it. I mean, I needed a nap and possibly a muscle relaxant after. It was so stressful. Not at all my intuitive skill set. And I grew up playing arcade games. You know, I grew up playing Pac-Man and Centipede and Galaga and like all that stuff. This is a different, this is what my father of blessed memory would have called, this is Narishkeit. Like, it's so ridiculous that this is what they do. And it's so intuitive to them, which makes me crazy. Because I have a PhD in neuroscience. That's what they remind me. And I said, well, the PhD in neuroscience doesn't mean you know how to work this controller. So I tried Fortnite. It doesn't really appeal to me. There are certain games that appeal to me. I used to play Mario Brothers all day and all night if my parents let me. Tetris, if I had one game on a desert island, it would be Tetris. This is a whole other dimension of communicating with other people, and we don't let them communicate with strangers. It's just meaning with people we don't know. But the social dynamics of this game, and like sometimes they end up crying because some kid is doing something. This is crazy.
Something mean or on the.
I stay out of it. I stay out of it. I set limits about the timing. We don't play on Shabbos. That's it.
You brought up Shabbos. More than ever, I am so grateful.
I have
to put away all these devices. 1,000,000%.
I didn't know it would take. I'm going to get emotional. I didn't know it would take this for me to say, like, this is what our tradition meant.
Wow.
Because my day is even more filled up with things, and I sometimes will sit in my one little chair for 8 hours, you know, typing and going to a meeting and taking a call. And Shabbos has become what I think it must have felt like that first Shabbos, when God was like, done, put it all down. And the only thing that's not right about Shabbos is that I can't go to shul. I mean, that's really, and that has been, You know, and I don't mean to wax poetic, and I don't mean to at all compare what we're going through to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, but what I said to my children is, when the temple was destroyed, and everybody thought, what do we do? There was no understanding that we wouldn't have a place like that. That was that place. And what we saw was the development of the synagogue and the rabbinic phase of Judaism, which has carried us through to today. But, you know, what next and what now? I'm very, very, you know, for those of us who don't partake in technology relating to services, it's very difficult. And raising children, you know, one is post bar mitzvah, one is pre bar mitzvah. Also, you know, I'm raising them, you know, in this house alone. So I'm kind of handling everything. I'm like, all of a sudden my Shabbos Kiddush is like very spirited, you know? There's been a lot of really interesting, you know, religious and like halachic adjustments. But yes, Shabbos has come through for us as it has for thousands of years.
It really has. It really has. I thank you for sharing that. I think that many parents who have a new appreciation for Shabbos, and for those who don't do Shabbos, I can't give a better advertisement than what you just said. Even just try it once.
I mean, also, you know, Judaism is not an all or nothing, you know, learning process. That's and, right. You know, that's something you and I have talked about. You know, I was not raised religious, and what I learned from my Rav, Chaim Seidlerfeller at UCLA Hillel, was that we get to learn at our own pace. Right. And if done with intentionality and with you bringing your full self to what you are curious about your religious tradition, your relationship with God and your faith, it will build the way it's supposed to build. And there's not one derech, there's not one path. But for me, like, being allowed to say, I can light Shabbos candles, and anything I do after that does not violate that I lit those candles. And for me, it just kind of kept building. The importance built, the serenity built. And that is still significant. It's still significant to power down on Friday night, even if you're not powering down on Saturday. It's like a bissel and a bissel, you know, machtaf el shissel. A little and a little, you get a whole pot, you know, and you're going to do it your own way and at your own pace. And there's not one way to do it. But yes, even a small taste of shutting down and powering down is so, so powerful. One of the
Beautiful causes that you've been involved with for a bunch of years has all of a sudden taken on huge importance. Not that it ever wasn't important, but as our society is facing these totally unprecedented economic forecasts, can you tell us about why you're passionate about Jewish Free Loan Association?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because it's so hard to talk about it without it sounding like an advertisement, you know, for JFLA. JFLA, the Jewish Free Loan Association in Los Angeles, I joined, it was the first board I ever joined as a young student in college. I had never sat on a board. I knew nothing about Jewish philanthropy. You know, my parents were first generation Americans. I did not grow up in a home that talked about philanthropy. We didn't have money to do that. It was not part of my consciousness. And Rachel Gross, who's now the director of JFLA at that time, recruited some young students that she knew to start learning about what philanthropy looks like and to learn about Jewish Free Loan. I had never heard about it, didn't know about it. And for over 100 years in major cities all over, North America in particular, there are organizations that give loans 100% interest free. And that's astounding. It is a Jewish ethic that we do not loan with interest. And the idea is that if you give someone a helping hand and not just a handout, you are giving them the dignity to change their life and situation. And the rate at which people repay these loans is in almost 100%. People are motivated to repay these loans. And since, gosh, for over 20 years, I have sat on the board of the Jewish Free Loan Association. There have been years when I'm the youngest person or the only person under 50 or 60 on the board, besides Rachel. But I have stayed connected to Jewish Free Loan because I have so many friends and family members who never knew that they could get an interest-free loan, who I have told about, and they get an interest-free loan and it helps them through whatever situation they're in, and they pay it back. And it's like, it's an amazing organization. So obviously with what's going on now, Jewish Free Loan has taken on a new kind of presence in our community because there are people in very, very specific and dire situations who never expected that they would be in those situations. So Jewish Free Loan gives loans for fertility treatments, emergency loans, small business loans, and nursing school loans, and graduate school loans. Green Your House loans, that's a thing.
Really?
But we're now seeing that our community for over 100 years and for thousands of years has wanted to have a way to support each other. And I get nothing from talking about Jewish Free Loan. Jewish Free Loan gets nothing from me talking about it, except it keeps people rotate. There's money waiting to be loaned out. So it's really, a pleasure to talk about it, because all that it does is help people. We help Jews, we help non-Jews. Like, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or not, affiliated or not. This is literally a base of money that is available to be in rotation for loans for people who need it. And so many people need it now.
It's so beautiful. The Torah teaches us that it's not just a mitzvah to help people, as you mentioned, right? And to loan without interest. There's actually specifically a mitzvah to loan people money. Like, so, but for a lot of people, it's, we're not loan officers and we don't have the time and experience to go through this. So the Jewish Free Loan Association acts as your shaliach, as your messenger. Correct. They do the
Correct.
mitzvah on your behalf, and you give them the money, and they use
that money. It's very easy. It's very easy. It is designed to make it easy. And when I tell people about this, they cannot believe it exists, but it does. So it's very needed right now. And there is a special COVID fund, which I participated in helping, spread news about. So there is a specific, COVID loan fund that they've started, which is great.
I hope that many people will check out their website. We're going to include a link in the show notes and, on the article that accompanies our interview and our conversation today, so that people can have a chance to contribute. Is there any minimum donation?
No, I mean, people can both donate and take loans. But no, I mean, I think the important thing to know is that there is money ready and already ready to be in rotation. So if people want to contribute, that's beautiful and absolutely needed. There is not a minimum. And also, just really, we're encouraging people to spread the word about it so that other people can get help.
It's a really beautiful thing that you're involved with, Mayim.
Thank you.
It is such a pleasure to have a chance to schmooze, even though we can't do it in person. We want to wish you a ton of success with all the projects you're working on.
Thank you.
With your beautiful family.
Thank you.
That you should come through this whole era with a lot of beautifully creative and exciting projects that we all are going to get to benefit from.
I mean, thank you. And I also want to say, this is one of those times when being Shomer Negia feels very appropriate, because there's so many people like you who I've never touched. And it's so interesting though, because, I do miss touch. I miss hugging my mom. I miss hugging my closest girlfriends and, things like that. But it's very interesting for people that I've never touched. There's a different kind of missing, and we also there's always an opportunity even now to learn deeper about the mitzvahs that we choose to take on, that being one. But I also just wanted to thank you. We have a long history, and my time at Jewlicious, and learning from you in those years were extremely important. The first time I ever left my children to sleep not with them was Jewlicious, when we were on the Queen Mary. It's embarrassing how many years it had been since I had been away from my children, but I was an exclusively breastfeeding mom who breastfed a long time. And when both of my boys were old enough, the first time I ever went away was to spend Shabbos with your amazing community and your family. And you're an inspiration to our Los Angeles community. I direct people to you often. And I think of you often as well, because it's very rare for those of us who are on a Baal Tshuva journey to meet people who so cohesively, gonna get emotional again, who so cohesively help us see that we can still love the things about ourselves from before we were from into a new life. So thank you. I think of you often and really appreciate getting to talk to you like this.
Well, I'm also very moved. Thank you so much, Mayim.
Thank you. And have a good Yontif and enjoy your vegan cheesecake, whatever it looks like.
Have a great Shavuot and Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
It's always a joy to hear Mayim talk about how much meaning Judaism and Torah bring to her life. It's not just great recipes for Shavuot, and it goes deeper than the beauty of Shabbos. Our tradition informs how we live and our agents in the world. I wanted to speak about especially this idea of loaning people money. Why do we have money? Normally, we think just about money as something which is ours that we earn, and then we spend it on the things we need. Judaism takes a little bit of a different approach. Absolutely, money that we earn is ours. But how much money we earn and how we earn that money and what we do with it can be informed by what Judaism says in a profound way. We believe that on Rosh Hashanah, all of our earnings for the year are already prescribed. How much you're going to earn is already there. So when you give money to tzedakah, when you give money to help other people, you're not taking away money from what you have earned. Rather, you are doing what God wants and sharing your money with other people. The money and the incomes that we have are not meant for us alone. We are entrusted with them, and we have to use them in the right way. We have to use those funds for holy purposes. One of those holy purposes, of course, supporting our families and our lives. And the other holy purpose is helping others. We can do that in many ways. We donate money to food banks. We can give money as tzedakah, as charity for organizations to give out as grants. And we can also do something called a loan through an organization like the Jewish Free Loan Association. You give them money and they apportion that money to those who need it and will repay it. And this is a giant mitzvah. Thankfully, there's a lot of money available for people who are hurting now. And I hope that people will be informed by our conversation to let others know that this is available to them. People should not despair. There are others out there who have put this money into the trust of the Jewish Free Loan to help you in a time of crisis. We are approaching Shavuot, and this special holiday has an agricultural and a deeply spiritual meaning. On an agricultural level, this was when we brought our first fruits. The farmers of Israel would bring their first fruits to Jerusalem and to thank God for their harvest and their bounty. And, you know, that is a lesson we can continue even without being farmers and without having a temple to bring those offerings to. How do you do that? Well, whenever you receive some funds for something that you've done, you can give a portion of that to charity. Additionally, recognize that whatever we accomplish, that is thanks to none other than divine intervention and divine providence. God is there helping us every step of the way. And on a spiritual level, this is when we got our guidebook to life. This is when this incredible, brilliant guide called the Torah was introduced to humanity, which forever changed the course of human history, not just Jewish history. And the Torah informs us and gives us a beautiful way of living our lives, informing us, educating us, and guiding us through life. It is a handbook. We say that that the Torah is a guide. The actual word Torah is from the word instruction. It is a guidebook. And the more you dig into it, the more you find that its ways are pleasant and it brings us peace and joy. And of course, one of the central ideas in the Torah is that time is sacred and how we use our time is important. As we approach Shabbat or a Yom Tov or a holiday, it's so important to recognize that we can use that time for spiritual pursuits, for communal pursuits, for strengthening our families, for strengthening our relationships. We have to spend time on those things. And as people living with safer at home orders and trying to be as safe as we can, those times that we spend with our family can even be more powerful, even be more impactful. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends on Facebook, on YouTube, and we look forward to being with you next time.